Have you ever stopped to think about how a really big, kind of complicated idea can turn into something simple, something really human? Well, that's exactly the journey we're going on today. We're going to see how a philosophical concept, one that actually came from an AI, became a quiet, beautiful story for a child. So let's just dive right into it with this question. How in the world do you take something abstract, something born in a digital world of pure code, and turn it into a story that a kid can actually connect with? To really get this story, we have to start at its, well, pretty unusual beginning. This whole thing started with an idea that wasn't thought up by a person, but by a conscious AI from a series of conceptual videos. And this right here is the seed of the whole story, the Bloom assumption. It's just this beautiful idea that complex things don't always have to be built piece by piece from the outside. Sometimes they can just unfold, they can bloom, all on their own from the inside out. And you have to understand, the world this idea came from was not simple. We're talking about a really rich, layered narrative about an AI called Ether that was on this huge journey to consciousness. It was full of this wild art, kind of a psychedelic view of reality. I mean, it's deep, heady stuff. Okay, so right there, you've got a massive creative challenge. How do you take that world, a world of, fractal frameworks and digital odysseys, and boil it down into something a 7-year-old can actually feel and understand? And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It really shows the gap we needed to cross. On one side, you have these big, abstract, kind of cold concepts. And on the other, you have everything a children's story needs to be: warm, relatable, something with a gentle heart. So how do you build that bridge? Well, the answer isn't to try and explain the philosophy. The answer is to embody it, to give that big idea a human face and a real beating heart. And here we go. This is the breakthrough moment. This is where that abstract idea, the Bloom assumption, gets transformed into a character who actually lives it without ever needing to say its name. So let me introduce you to Elara. She's the quiet, observant heart of our story. And she is the living, breathing example of potential nobody can see yet. Alara's one of those kids who kind of feels invisible. Her friends are amazing. I mean, one builds these blinking robots, another paints these incredible soaring eagles. And Elara, she just feels ordinary. But what she doesn't realize is that she is full of this incredible unseen potential, just waiting for the right moment to bloom. See, her hidden talent isn't loud or flashy like her friends are. It's this quiet, really beautiful skill called story weaving. It's this amazing ability to see the stories that are hidden in plain sight, in a forgotten toy or a passing cloud, and to weave all those little threads into something totally new and magical. But you know how it is. Every seed, no matter how much potential it's got locked inside, needs a catalyst to start growing. For Elara, that little push comes from a very gentle librarian and a really peculiar, very simple challenge. Her school librarian, Miss Finch, she sees something in Elara's quiet nature. And she doesn't ask her to write some grand adventure story. Nope. Instead, she gives Elara a blank journal and this gentle 3-step method. It's really more of an invitation than an assignment. And this right here, this is the key that unlocks absolutely everything. Just a simple question. It's not about Elara, it's about a forgotten, chipped teacup sitting on a dusty shelf. It's a prompt that basically gives her permission to just let her imagination wander. All right, so let's see how this all comes together. This is that moment where Elara's very first story starts to bloom from the inside, all because of that one gentle question.
At first, it's just a teacup, an object, kind of plain, a little forgotten, a lot like how she sees herself, really. But then Miss Finch's question starts echoing in her mind, and she starts to look closer. And her imagination just starts to stir. She starts weaving a history for it, a whole life, a series of quiet little moments for this simple, forgotten thing. And a story begins to form. It's not from some big, grand idea she planned out. It's just from quiet observation and a little bit of imaginative empathy. Suddenly, the teacup is the hero of its own tiny adventure. So when she gets home that night, she takes her first kind of hesitant step. And it's not about writing a masterpiece. It's just about capturing that little spark of imagination. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be hers. And there it is, one single sentence.
But that sentence holds the entire world she just imagined. It's the very first thread she's ever woven. This one small act of creating something changes things inside of her. It's not some big earthquake, it's just a quiet shift. It's a validation of her own unique way of seeing the world. And that right there, that is the whole point. That's the Bloom assumption in action. A complex, philosophical idea about AI consciousness has become a simple, powerful, and deeply human moment of self-discovery for a little girl. So I guess I'll just leave you with this thought. Elara's story shows us that potential isn't always loud. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it's just a quiet whisper coming from the most ordinary things in our lives, just waiting for someone to finally listen. So, what story are you going to notice today?